Right, we're back with the second installment of this video that talks about the art of solving problems. And today we're going to talk about volume control. Let me tell you about what I mean by volume control. Every time that an argument starts between a couple, this is what happens. Often, this is what happens. Is that you start to get angry or upset about something, which has to do with the emotions, the feelings we spoke about in the first video.
Yeah.
And what happens is that you start to raise your voice. Now, that's where a little competition starts in our minds, because no one wants to be the one speaking lower. So what happens is that when the next person has her say or his say, his voice is going to be louder. And before you know it, you have a scream fest going on in your house. And trust me, it's not going to solve any problems.
No, it's not. I know it.
Yeah, actually, that has happened a few times with us.
Yeah, we also had to learn the art of problem solving.
Exactly. I
Same
mean,
thing.
we adjust things and fix things as we go along in relationships. That's what you do. But there's this competition that goes on, right? You try to see who speaks the loudest.
Sometimes you don't do it on purpose. Sometimes you're not really loud, but you just sound like you are disrespecting the other half. So you might want to learn what it means to your partner. When you are being too loud.
Yeah, and of course, if you think about the great men of the past that solved conflicts with their speeches, it wasn't about how loud they spoke. It was about putting the argument across. And when I say the argument, not an argument of fighting, but an argument of making the other person understand your point, and of course wanting to understand the other person's point, because often people shout when they're having an argument because they don't want to hear what the other person has to say. That's why you shout. You shout so the other person doesn't say what they want to say.
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So like we said on our previous video, step number one is to use your reason rather than your emotion, because your emotion is, what you want to do is shout back or not talk about the problem or do whatever, but not the right thing. Okay? Now, today it's about raising your voice, like you were saying. And for you to not need to raise your voice, for you to be heard rather, it's one of you has to be listening. One of you has to listen.
At least one.
Yes, at least one. And I believe that if, for example, the woman or the man, doesn't matter, starts listening and stops shouting or arguing really loud, the other one will be like, oh, hold on, something happened here, so we can actually talk.
That's
Do you understand?
right.
It's like you change, and then the person is like, oh,
yeah,
I'm going to listen to what she has to say.
And in this instance, you really have to think about that practice makes perfect. It may be that if you're a couple that you always end up shouting when you're having a discussion and it turns into an argument. It may be that it's going to take some time that you can resolve a conflict without shouting. And actually, you might have to force yourself to speak in a low tone of voice. And remember that solving a problem, a conflict between two parties, it's usually your point and the other person's point. So being fair, you need to listen to what the other person has to say. So remember, it's never about how loud you speak or how high the tone of your voice is. It's about making the other person understand you, but also trying to understand the other person. Right, Len?
Yes. Which brings us to another step before we leave.
This is an unexpected step that I didn't know about, but go ahead.
Because, think with me, you want to put your point across, right? And the other person is shouting at you, very angry, and vice versa. Right, you said one has to, we said one has to, listen, okay? Also, I would say that, which is very important in problem solving, is to choose a good time to talk.
Yes.
Because maybe it's not working, the listening thing that we just said. Oh, one of you has to just stop shouting. Sometimes you just, let the other person shout and just walk away nicely. Okay, listen, I'm not going to argue with you. And then when the person is a lot more calmer, bring up the subject. Listen, the other day this happened. I think we can't deal with problems like this. So communicate. Wait for a good time to talk about it.
And I bet that even if you're single and you've never been in a relationship, it has happened to you before that you were dealing with a problem at home or at school or at work, and you couldn't find a solution for that, and you took a break, you went away, you had some tea or whatever it is that you do to relax, and when you came back, it hit you right between the eyes. The solution was right there, but you couldn't see it because you were in the thick of the problem. And that's what Lenny was saying, that sometimes you are in that argument, you haven't found a solution for that yet, and people start to get angry and raise their voices. At least one needs to be courageous enough to say, listen, let's visit this topic a little bit later, let's calm down now. And sometimes that really helps to solve the problem. So here's two very important steps, or actually three now, the one that Lenny just prepared here last minute. Three very important steps on solving problems, the art of solving problems. Number one, use your reason, not your emotions. Number two, volume control. Shouting has never solved anything. And number three, if things are not going really well in terms of solving that conflict, you can always take a break, come back to it later when both of you are more calmed down. We hope that by using these tips, it will help you in your relationship, and remember that practice makes perfect. Become a master of the art of problem solving. Okay? We'll see you next time. Seminars. Thank you. In our seminars every week, and advice sessions we do with couples. And we're going to call this video The Love Butterflies versus Hard Work. Let me tell you why we chose to call this video this. A few days ago,